categorize companies into two categories, right? You had what I call high culture companies, that is, their employees already love working there, and they love working there because they do stuff like this. They treat them well, they're generous, they're considerate, they think about their employees, communicate their value. And then you have ones that the leadership just doesn't care, and the employees know it. You can't hide it. And so I can go to these companies that don't care and go, I got a solution for you.
Financial incentives do drive people, but I don't think it's the only thing that drives people, and maybe not even the biggest thing that drives people. Like, if they're comfortable from a financial perspective, then it's culture. It's the the enjoyment of what they're doing, the ability to grow, the ability to learn, to have impact. I mean, all of that to me is what will matter in the long term. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Jordan Peace. Jordan is the co-founder and CEO of Fringe, an employee experience platform that consolidates rewards and recognition, lifestyle benefits, well-being programs, life events, and gifting. So, this list goes on. I'm going to run out of breath on this list. Fringe runs the engine that powers elite company culture, which I think is actually probably a great synopsis of all of that. So, yeah. Jordan, thank you for being on the show. That's first and foremost. Thank you for being on the show. Thanks for taking the time out today. I truly do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I think you make a good point. I think just that last line was maybe the only line we needed as an introduction to Fringe. But really happy to be here. Excited to talk to you.
Awesome. Well, as I mentioned, and I demonstrated why I don't do the long intro, because I started butchering it, but I would much rather hear your story, your background, kind of let me and the listeners know a bit about yourself and what your company does. We can
absolutely
just dive in from there.
And I really, by the way, love the name of the podcast. That made me interested in coming on to it, because it's more what I'm interested to talk about than doing an infomercial for my business. So I'll tell you a little bit, and then we could just jump into the more personal and the why and all that. But so I mean, I think the reason why the introduction is so long, is because we started the company to try to do what we call lifestyle benefits. So to kind of put that into non-industry terms, essentially my thought process, I used to be a financial advisor. And so I would talk to people all the time about their money, about investments, about their job, about their benefits, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that's really obvious to me is that people don't, for the most part, don't understand their benefits. I mean, this insurance stuff, financial stuff written in some alien language that nobody understands. Yep. And so, if you don't understand something, you usually don't appreciate it either. And so my logic was, well, what if companies offered benefits that were actually tangible and like daily and things that I could use, and I didn't have to be sick or dead or disabled or 65 years old to actually benefit from my benefits, right? Yeah. And so we came up with this idea of lifestyle benefits. Fringe, of course, is a reference to the idea of fringe benefits. That's where the name comes from. And so we started selling these like stipend programs. We went to employers and said, hey, I gave the same kind of logic that I just gave you, and said, hey, why don't you fund accounts for people so that they can get services like massage memberships or childcare, or like really practical, tangible things that would make them kind of feel supported, like feel like a VIP, like feel like you care about them. Wouldn't that maybe breed more loyalty than the long-term disability policy that nobody's ever going to use, Right. And so we pitched that went well. We raised a little money. And then the reason why that intro got so long is because it went well, and companies said, hey, we love your process. We love your marketplace, where people can kind of pick the benefits like the massage or whatever. But could you do rewards and recognition also? Could you do wellness also? Could you be like a swag store for us as well? And so we've just kind of bolted on and added over the course of the last 7 years, because that's what customers want. They want a consolidated tool that does a lot of stuff. Sure. So that's exactly what we've become, is a consolidated employee experience tool that does quite a bit.
I love the idea.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I have many questions, but first, what made that, former financial advisor, like what kind of brought that idea to mind? I often feel like there's, someone forms a company, it's because they had an experience that, sort of said, oh, I'd like to do this or whatever. How
Yeah.
did you kind of come to the idea of doing this?
Uh, Frustration, I think, it maybe is the best word for it. So being a financial advisor, you end up talking to people about things similar to benefits that like they don't really fully understand what you're saying. You
Sure.
know, they kind of get it directionally, but they haven't studied it. And so they're like, is this guy trustworthy? Because I'm either going to listen to him or not. It's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So I ended up just sharing so much with customers about all of these like fantastic benefits they already have. I'm like, guys, look at this life insurance policy your employer is giving you. Isn't that great? This is like twice as much as, this other, company over here. And they're like, yay. I had to wake people up at the end of our meetings to like
Yeah. Yeah.
usher them to the elevator.
Yeah.
And it was just not interesting. So I was like, well, if they're not interested in me describing it to them one on one in a really personalized kind of way, then they're sure as hell not interested in the email they got from the total rewards director saying, look at all this. They didn't even read it. So it just kind of occurred to me. I'm like, I think benefits are broken. Like I don't, because the whole point of benefits, now I'm going to get real nerdy here, but the whole point of benefits, they actually exist because during World War II, the government came out and capped wages and said you can't pay people any more than you're paying them now. And so employers didn't have a way to compete with one another through salary. So they cleverly said, well, we'll just give you other free stuff, right? And so things like pension plans and things like group health insurance and those things sort of were born out of a need to compete. But if people don't understand their benefits and don't appreciate the benefits, then they're not competing. It's not working.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was really just kind of a logic that popped into my head, to be honest with you, Jason. I'm just, that's kind of who I am. I'm just like an ideas person. I'll drive down the street and see a restaurant and be like, they shouldn't have named it that. They should have named it this. Like, it's just kind of
Right,
how
right.
I think. I
Yeah.
can't even walk and chew gum, but I can brand things and I can come up with new ideas. I think it's just how I was wired.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I really never thought about it, but you're right. I mean, most people don't understand the benefits package. And beyond that, like, even almost as many of them, like you said, just don't care, because it's like, what, you're not, you're taking a job and they're like, oh, I'm going to give you this life insurance policy. And you're like, well, I'll be dead then. So that doesn't help. That's not a benefit to me. Like, that doesn't do anything for me right now. Like, great. Like, it might help my family, but
Yeah.
there's stuff there. And I feel like the narrative around benefits mostly is that they're being taken away in the form of healthcare, right? That people are having to pay more and more of
Yeah.
their own healthcare costs because those costs keep going up. I get it. Like, I get why the companies would do that. It's not great when you're an employee to say, oh, now, X more dollars come from my paycheck each
Right.
week or month or whatever it turns out to be. I did not know about that, sort of what happened with the government saying you can pay more. I mean, that makes total sense. And then it just became the norm.
Yeah.
When you, I guess, can you describe to me what this looks like from the employer side?
Yeah.
And also from the employee side when they decide to work with you?
Yeah. So just think of like a prospective client. So let's say you've got a potential client, they've got 1,000 employees, and they probably have some things in place. So they're probably doing, at that size, they're probably doing some sort of well-being program, right? The logic behind the well-being program is if I can keep my people healthy, then I'm not going to have to pay as many insurance premiums, right? And so they're going to do like steps challenges and sleep challenges and hydration challenges and whatever. And sometimes the insurer will actually give companies money to fund things like that because they see the logic in like, well, if we can kind of preventatively keep people healthier, then there's less claims. And so there's kind of budget for that. They might also certainly be doing like a birthday program or a work anniversary program. And simultaneously, they might also be doing like $100 in swag credit every year so you can buy a hat or you can buy a sweatshirt with your company logo on it. So they have all these sort of disparate, disconnected programs. And so for the employer, our value proposition is, hey, you don't need 5 pieces of software to do that. You just need one. And as a result, you're actually going to save quite a bit of money on the software cost. For the employee, all they are experiencing is I have a Fringe account. In that account, I get funded for this reason and that reason and this other reason. I might get like recognition from my manager. I'm going to get a birthday reward once a year. Maybe I get a lifestyle stipend. It just depends on the company. And then they have these Fringe points, and they get into our marketplace and they spend their Fringe points on whatever it is in our marketplace that interests them. And I mentioned massage memberships and childcare, but there's hundreds of other options in there too, of just things that, again, they meet needs right now. It's not insurance. It's not I'm sick and I need. It's just this makes my life a little bit easier. I saw behind you in the video, your best dad and daddy, and so I got 5 kids myself. And so for me, like, I spend a lot of my Fringe points on my kids. I spend it on vacation, or I spend it on things my wife's into. Actually, she spends it, if we're honest. They're not really my Fringe points. They're more hers. Right. But so that's the employee experience. Is like, oh, my employer gives me this cool thing where I'm able to access subscriptions and memberships and things that I might not buy for myself because they feel a little bit like, I don't know if I can justify that in the budget or whatever, but if my employer is helping me with it or paying for it outright, sure, I'll try Stitch Fix, or I'll get a DoorDash, like a Dash Pass, or absolutely. So that's kind of the experience for both sides.
Are you planning a remodel or construction project? Overwhelmed by the process? Over budget? Extended timelines? Strained relationships? We are all too familiar. At Lark Construction Services, we help homeowners and business owners take control of their construction journey, from reviewing bids and contracts to catching red flags before they become costly mistakes. Our Clarity Audit is a one-on-one expert review of your plans, estimates, or current progress, giving you the peace of mind and a defined action plan to move forward with confidence. Don't let confusion lead to costly errors. Visit larkconstruction.com and schedule your free call today. Lark Construction Services, saving you time, money, and stress.
Yeah, I mean, I love that concept. It really is like, there is very little in the sort of, I guess, traditional benefits package that you get that's like immediately usable. Yeah. I already mentioned, life insurance, but even just regular medical insurance. Like, if you don't get sick, I mean, how many years did I pay into insurance and have never used it? Like, it's just, I know it needs to be there. I think it's, conceptually a good idea, but it's just also like, it's not giving me anything at the time. Right. It's taking away from my paycheck, and even, 401k, all of that stuff is like, oh, this will help you, years down the line.
Right.
With what you're describing, I mean, this is, sort of an immediate benefit. And I would have to imagine, like, as an employer, providing these things feels good, just to do good. Again, people like sort of instant gratification. So you're going to have, oh, look, here's a thing I can give to my employees that they can use right away. Yeah. But also, I would have to imagine, like, that's probably back to that competition piece. Mm-hmm. Like, employees are going to be excited about it. They might tell other people it's good for recruiting. Like, oh, I get, my employer gives me these Fringe points and I use them for X, Y, and Z. To me, it makes a whole lot of sense in a world of, sort of a very competitive landscape in hiring. We often, I think you hear a lot about, sort of the compensation package when you're talking about high level executives.
Right.
But that's different, I think, than, the vast majority of employees who are just trying to be, have a good experience with wherever they're going to be employed. So I love it. I love the concept.
I wish I would have met you like 7 years ago when we were raising money from angels, because you got it immediately and not everybody did. But yeah, it's a feeling. I mean, it's more to it than just dollars and cents. It's like, I hate to compare it too much to like a family relationship, but there is a relationship between employer and employee, right? There's a
Right.
feeling of like, I am cared about, I'm not cared about. I am valued or I'm not valued.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, if all of your gifts to your wife or my wife were like, hey, honey, I'm never going to buy you flowers, ever. Sorry. But when you die, there's going to be great flowers on top of the casket. I
Yeah.
promise. You know what I mean? Like, how comforting is
Yeah.
that?
Right.
How attractive is that as sort of an offering of love, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's so similar. It's just like, hey, we got you if the worst happens, but if everything's okay, you're on your own. You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah.
I just don't think
Yeah.
that's the healthiest relationship between employer and employee.
Yeah. No, that's it. Yeah. You are going to have the most beautiful flower arrangement you will ever never see.
You'll
It's just,
never see it.
it's going to be perfect. I promise it's going to be perfect. Yeah, that is exactly what that is literally exactly what it's like. And so this is, this makes far more sense. And I, that relationship, it truly does seem to be one or the, it's either I really like who I work for or I really don't like who I work for.
Yeah.
I don't think you feel like you hear a lot of just indifferent, like, yeah, my employer's meh. It's more like, oh, they're terrible, they don't do anything for us, or I really love working for this company. So I think this, Fringe could really shift people in that direction of, this, having a positive feeling towards the employer.
Yeah. What's funny about that, Jason, is like, as an entrepreneur trying to sell this product into, the HR world, it's so interesting because immediately I could categorize companies into two categories, right? You had that, what I call high culture companies, that if their employees already love working there, and they love working there because they do stuff like this. They treat them well, they're generous, they're considerate, they think about their employees, communicate their value. And then you have ones that just, the leadership just doesn't care. And the employees know it. You can't hide it. And so I can go to these companies that don't care and go, I got a solution for you. And they could not care less. They're like, why would I buy that? They're just employees. But I go over to the other company that's already spending a fortune on their people because they care, and they're like, sign me up. I want to do that too. And so it really kind of just boils down to leadership and like, do people really value their people? Because everybody says our people are our most valuable asset and yada, yada, yada. But not everybody means it. In fact, I'd venture to say maybe most don't. But what's been nice is that we've done it long enough that a new category, a middle category has emerged. And it's the folks that used to not care and they still don't deep down, but they know they have to compete. And so they'll start to do some of these cultural wins and and it doesn't come off as genuine because it's not as genuine, but it helps. And so we're slowly, you kind of one of those rising tides lift all boats type of things. We're just slowly influencing the relationship between employer and employee, which is really our mission at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. We talk a lot about mindset on this podcast, and mindset in, leadership and things like that. I, as the leader of a company that essentially is trying to help leadership of other companies, I mean, effectively, that's really what you're trying to instill some level of culture. And as you just mentioned, you're either enhancing already good culture, or maybe you're just introducing the concept that culture matters to some companies. How do you look at that within your company, within Fringe, within yourself? What is your leadership style?
Yeah, I mean, we got to lead from the front in that way, right? I mean, there's a lot of pressure when you're a company out there going, hey, employees matter, treat them right, invest in them, make them feel like a MVP, to do that. And so we do, we spend a lot on our people. We do a lot of extra things. We've got well-being days and volunteer days, and we get together every other year. We fly everybody in to have a Fringe Fest, and We'll rent out a place that people can be together for a weekend, and hire people to come in and do team building. So we do a lot, but not because we have to, but because to me, I want to. Like, these relationships with these employees, like, yeah, it's not the same as having a friend. I remember sitting down with one employee one time, and we were just having she was high up in the company, got really candid conversation, because I just kind of felt like she wasn't kind of trusting the direction I wanted to go in. And I remember I was just like, do you trust me? Just flat out ask her. And she was like, I do, but I also know that you could fire me anytime. And I was like, ooh, interesting. Yeah, you're right. Like, there's only but so much so much trust, because there's this hierarchy. So it's interesting. But as much as humanly possible, I want to make people feel like they have a home, when they work at Fringe, that, like, hey, if you want to stay here for the long haul, all the way till we sell it or we go public or whatever the thing is that, would happen next. And like, I love that. I actually think, let me go back to the marriage dating thing, right? I think it's healthy when we're young. We date, we decide what we want, we decide what we like, we see some traits that we're attracted to and some that we're not, and we sort of find our way to that person, ideally, that's like our person. And I don't think it's very different with work. Like, I think the best way it would work is that there is some job hopping early on. We're figuring out what we like, what we want, who we are, what we're best at. But then we find a home with an employer that we can really invest ourselves into the relationships and the work and the mission. And so that's probably the thing I've been most proud of with this whole company, like setting aside how much money we've raised or what the revenues are. Like, it's great, it's important, but like, I'm not going to remember that when I'm 80 years old. Like, I'm gonna remember the people, the relationships, the feeling of what we build. And I'm really proud that we've got people that have been with us for the entire life of the company. And I think they're going to be with us no matter how long it lasts, because they feel at home. And that's the dream come true for me. Like, that's what I wanted, to set that example. And then kind of what we're doing now, and even what I'm doing in some part here on the podcast, is like, I'm trying to take that and export it to the world. Like, I'm trying to tell others, like, this is possible. You can have companies like this where people do feel valued and appreciated, and dare I even say loved. That is possible. But everybody's got to be vulnerable and set their pride aside and set their egos aside, in order to achieve something like that.
Yeah, I completely agree, and you articulated it so much better than I ever have been able to. I've talked about it, kind of probably with friends here and there, but conceptually, my goal is no one ever leaves working for me because they found a better job. Basically, you know what I mean? Like, right. They might move, they might want to stay home with family. There might be other reasons. Right. It's not that, no one will ever, but it is my goal that no one leaves because they found a better job. And better job, I mean, like I said, you articulated it so much better, but it's like, it's stupid in my mind. It's stupid to leave like a top employee, good culture fit, good performer, because someone else pays them a little bit more. It's right. Like there are so many things, and it doesn't just have to be about the money, but it's like, insert all the other things that you've mentioned, culture, and it's true. You're the people you work with, whether you're peers or you're an employee to an employer and vice versa, they're probably the people you spend the most time with. Right. Like you're right, they may not be a friend, but sort of they're I don't know, like a large portion of your time spent in those relationships. And so they really do matter. I don't, it's just it is a thing that probably doesn't, people say, oh, you want to have good culture in the workplace and all of that. But I think having this discussion about what that actually means is really, really important. And Fringe is essentially, I mean, you're going out and selling that, right? Like
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
that is the value proposition, is like how to help create culture, because I would think that it doesn't just come from using Fringe and having some things that, you know,
No.
people can, it starts to create a larger conversation than just that alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, that last line in the intro, it's like Fringe is just an engine that helps run the culture. It's not the culture,
Yeah.
and it's not the reason why there is a good culture. It's that tool that can do it.
Yeah.
I can't change, like our software just can't change a culture, right? It's just really, what do the leaders actually care about in their hearts truly, because
Yeah.
the truth always comes out in the
Yeah.
end,
Yeah.
and I wish I could just sell culture. I wish that was, something that there were enough buyers for, but it's a shame that you got to go out and go, well, we're going to save you money. We're going to simplify administration. We're going to make it a better employee experience, all of which is true. But I'd love to just be like, hey, do you want to enjoy work every day?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want your people to enjoy it every day? Do you want to actually have like a fulfilling career? Let's do this. That would be the dream. Maybe I'll be a culture consultant someday and I'll sell culture.
Well, I mean, as you're saying that, I'm really thinking like that probably is the future. That is the future competitive edge. Because, you said software doesn't instill culture, but it software, technology, AI, like that's all going to be standard. Like those are all going to be things that if you don't have them, you won't have a company. Like I mean,
Right.
I'm sure there are people that'll argue that point, but like
Not
the
me.
vast majority, I would say, will agree with that statement. Like those things are going to have to be a part of a company, especially at, a company at scale, something larger. So therefore, what that leaves to compete on is the culture. Like where do you want to work? Where is it exciting to go every day? When people have the option to work from home, but you want them in the office,
Right.
well, you better make it attractive to be in the office. Like there better be a reason to
Mm-hmm.
go in there and enjoy that day. Because I don't think financial incentives do drive people, but I don't think it's the only thing that drives people, and maybe not even the biggest thing that drives people. Like if they're comfortable from a financial perspective, then it's culture. It's the the enjoyment of what they're doing, the ability to grow, the ability to learn, to have impact. I mean, all of that to me is what will matter in the long term. And I think because of software and AI, the long term is not very long anymore.
Right.
Like the long term is 5 years away instead of what it used to be 20 years away. So like we have to think and adapt probably a whole lot faster than we used to need to. And so, I mean, that is, I just love this concept. I think the idea of culture and what Fringe brings to that, even if it's just an introduction of the topic, like that's very, very valuable. So super cool.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I couldn't agree more. And it's, that's why the company matters to me so much. I just like I'm invested in it, and there could be a big financial outcome for me and my family if it goes well. And like that, Matt, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to provide for 5 children, so like it matters,
Right.
But at the same time, like there's a lot of ways to provide for a family, but the reason why I'm so passionate about this thing is because if we can get enough people on board, if we can get enough companies believing in this and understanding that it actually does matter, and not just because it's the right thing to do and to treat people well, that's enough reasons in my mind, but also the bottom line. Like I think people forget, like people that love their job, it shows up. It shows up in the customer service. It shows up in the creativity. It shows up in how hard they work, when they come in, when they go home, how many hours they're working that you don't see, like it shows up in all of that stuff. And a business is literally just more successful with happy employees, and happy employees are born out of a healthy culture. So I don't know why I can't convince every CEO in the country of that, but I'm trying my hardest.
Well, yeah. I think it will probably play out that more and more will have to come around to realizing that the importance of culture. So you're maybe at the head of that movement, but I would have to imagine that it's going to get I don't know that it'll get easier to sell, but it'll become almost sort of the norm. So
yeah, table stakes. Yeah,
I think kind of some of what you're just saying was probably a really good moment to introduce the question I told you I ask every guest this. The same name of the show is Know Your Why. So I sense your passion about what you do, the company, but I'd love to just dive in a little bit more on what is your why, kind of the driver behind success that keeps you going.
Yeah. Honestly, life is short. I think it's probably, if I had to put it in 3 words, life is short, or let me add some words. Life is short and you can't take any of it with you. So like, yeah, like I was a financial advisor. I'm raising money from venture capitalists. I'm steeped in all the finance stuff. I'm surrounded by talk of money all the time. But the longer I'm in it, the more I see that it's not all that important. Like my dad used to tell me when I was growing up, he said, money can't make you happy, son. He said, if you have none of it, you might be miserable, but it cannot make you happy, know? And I'm like, well, then what does? What is it? And I think it's relationships. I think the richest man on earth is the one that's going to have 1,000 people at his funeral. Like that's wealth to me. That's what I'm pursuing. That's what I care about just in my own personal life and journey. And the people around me, whether they're friends or employees or whatever, the people that actually have a smile on their face routinely are the people that have the best relationships. So the company to me is just focusing in on the employer-employee relationship, but it also benefits employee-to-employee relationships, and it benefits spouses when they go home from their job that they now love instead of hate, and how are they going to treat their spouse or their children. It's important work for that reason. So my why is life is short, you can't take anything with you, and the only thing worth investing in really is relationships.
Yeah I completely agree, and the part of that maybe resonated the most with me. I have 2 kids. I don't have 5. 5 sounds like
that's because
so
you're not
many.
Crazy. I don't recommend 5 kids. I love my kids, but it is chaos.
yeah. It's like I have 2 and it's chaos a lot of that. So when I speak with people that have more, I'm always like, wow, that's impressive. But you said those employees that enjoy their job are gonna come home, and that is directly going to have an impact on their family.
Totally.
Spouse, kids, regardless of the number of kids, that doesn't matter. That is one of the things that I have had maybe as a personal focus, something that's very, very important to me, that when I have a challenging day of work, whatever that means, right? Like what worked physically hard or had, mental challenges with anything.
Yeah.
I can recognize it in sometimes how, my interactions with my kids or my wife or what, and I do not find that acceptable. Right. And so I work on it from my own perspective, but the beauty of this is it's true. Like, if you can have a positive experience in your work life, which we already talked about is a big part of the time you spend, like right. If that can be more positive than it is now, it is also going to make the other parts of your life more positive. Yeah. And so it's just, I love it. I love the concept. I love the idea of, overall just it's improvement of lives, and that's going to trickle down.
Yeah.
So it's super cool. And that is like, that's my challenge to myself every day. It's like, oh, if it was a hard day, the kids shouldn't know, right?
Right.
They might sometimes, and we talk about it, but if it's a hard day, like, I don't want them to know. I want them to, it's still dad, still the guy that loves them and wants to be there present. So, but this concept, I think, can make that easier for people, kind of when they get home. So very, very cool. Very, very cool. When people hear this and they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Honestly, I think with me, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I will direct message people back if they message me. I would just say, give me a follow on LinkedIn is probably the way to go. The content I put out is a lot like this. It's just what I care about, what I'm passionate about. Some of it is about business, but some of it is about having 5 kids, and some of it is about having ADHD and how you run a household with 5 kids and a business with ADHD, which is just absolutely chaos. So it's entertaining. I could promise you that much. Insightful, we'll see, but it'll be entertaining for sure. So give me a follow and reach out on LinkedIn if you really want to chat or are interested in Fringe or something like that.
Awesome. We'll get that in the show notes, and I believe we've got the Fringe website as well. So we'll get all of that into the show notes so people can connect or maybe even become your next customer. So, Jordan, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I really do. It makes so much sense to me. The concept of adding things to people. These benefits to people on something that they can use and experience immediately is just like, sometimes I hear ideas, or you think, why is that not a thing that people thought about 50 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. So so cool. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thanks for a great conversation. I really do appreciate having you.
Thanks for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks, Jason.
Folks listening, make sure you connect with Jordan, especially if you have a company that could use Fringe and add that to your benefits for your employees. And please like, rate, and review the show so we can continue to get more great guests. As always, thank you for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?